Yeah, peace, peace, peace. Eric the Mad Scientist, True Knowledge. Got another thing for you. This is really the part of Deceiver, but I'm be talking about Christianity mixed in with it. I'll be talking about other stuff, but I'm just basically it's gonna be the main thing based around Paul. I'm talking about the life of Paul. I'm be talking about the death of Paul. I'm be talking about how some claim that he created Christianity through, and how Christianity has got mixing up with a lot of other nation mythology. So gotta get ready for some real important info. And I just want to say, to all the haters, y'all can't destroy us, y'all can't stop us, man. Y'all only gonna make us more famous because we had y'all behind our back, man. You know what I'm saying? And that's just what it is. We gonna keep going, and we gonna keep studying, we gonna keep researching, we gonna keep teaching. It ain't no stopping us. So,
Peace.
are you ready when y'all are? Here we go. All right, Death of Paul, Britannica, Zondervan, Academics, and Blue Letter Babel. This is some of the sources I use. So, all right. Who is Paul? Paul describes his own life in Phil 3:5-6, where he lists 7 things ascribed to him or achieved by him. He states that he was circumcised on the 8th day. He calls himself of the people of Israel. He said he is of the tribe of Benjamin. He tells his readers that he is a Hebrew of Hebrews. When he thinks his life um, relative to the law, he calls himself a Pharisee. When he speaks of his zeal, he talks of prosecuting the church. Lastly, he says that with respect to the law, he was faultless. Note that he doesn't describe himself as sinless. Okay, these are the things that um, put down as characteristics of him.
All right.
Okay, again, who is Paul? Saint Paul the Apostle, original name Saul of Tarsus, born 4 BCE, Tarsus in Sicilia, now in Turkey. Died 64 CE, Rome, Italy. One of the leaders of the first generation of Christians, often considered to be the most important person after Jesus in the history of Christianity. In his
Oh,
own in his own day, although he was a major figure within the very small Christian movement, he also had many enemies and detractors, and his contemporaries probably did not accord him as much respect as they gave Peter and James. Okay, so again, there somebody claiming that he is the most important person to Christianity other than Jesus. Okay,
I think that in many facets, and inside of many aspects of Christianity, Paul is probably more important than Jesus and Moses.
whew, that's a great statement right there. I agree.
You know,
Because I mean, the books they read, the knowledge they have comes from Paul.
and I'm gonna say that if you are a Gentile, right, grafted into the Israelite covenant, then Paul's writings is probably the most important writings in the whole Bible to and for you. And even if you're Gentile or heathen minded, Paul is probably the most important person in there for you.
Yeah. Let's go to the next one. Okay, history of Paul. All right, because see, when I do research, that's what I do. I go to the history, the characteristics, what they do when I'm talking about a person, so you can know them before I even start talking about. Them, okay, Paul was a Greek-speaking Jew from Asia Minor. His birthplace Tarsus was it. Now, let me ask you, Yasha, where's Tarsus? They say it's Turkey, right? So
Yeah.
was that Rome? That was part of the Greek uh, or Roman. Because I know Romans
Actually,
spoke Greek too, right?
yeah, but see, see the thing with Anatolia, in my mind, in my research, it goes beyond Greece. It has a history of white folks beyond Greece, beyond Rome, right? You
Yeah,
know, in academia, people push Roman and Greek, you know, and that's white supremacy when that happens, right? But the truth of the matter is Anatolia goes back before that. And Anatolia go back to the Gutians, right? The
yeah,
sons of Gomer, the Qumri, you know,
okay,
the Medians, all of those old white people. Because white people didn't start with Greece and Rome,
yeah,
right? So Anatolia go back to the Gutians, you know, the sons of Gomer, the Gomarians, the Qumri, you know, and the Medes, right? And
yeah,
those type of white folks, you know. But even in Anatolia, you know, people don't even talk about the blacks that were in Anatolia. And me and Dana Reynolds kind of touched on that, you know, on the video that we did together, you know, of the blacks of Anatolia. But it is it is Anatolia that white people want to really pinpoint their mark in their entrance into the world. You know, so Paul coming from Anatolia, you know, is really questionable,
yeah,
you know, to me.
okay,
You know, it gives me more questions than answers.
yeah, okay. Um, okay, birthplace Tarsus was a major city in eastern Sicilia, a region that had been made part of the Roman province of Syria. Syria. By the time of Paul's adulthood, two of the main cities of Syria, Damascus and Antioch, played a prominent
Stop,
part.
stop.
Okay.
I want you to stop. Go back to that part about Syria. See, because that's that's where the Gutians had their power source at in Babylon, Acadia, Syria, right? They came in and toppled these ancient societies. And when they toppled these societies, they interloped and interpolate themselves into the society, right? What that means is that they came with first conquering, plundering, and pillaging, and then they took over the high spots, the government. They couldn't read, they ruling wrong, and they caused the whole damn Babylon and Mesopotamia and Syria to collapse, right? And you really see them strong instrumental in the Neo Assyrian Empire. That's why I'm asking you about Syria. See, those areas was very rich with white people, man. You know, we talk about invader type white people, right?
Yeah.
The people that was responsible. These were the same. See, when you talk about Asher, Asher was a Hamite, but you wonder how these European looking people that claimed Assyria on the release, you know, end up being Assyrians. Well, they were interlopers, invaders, right?
Yeah.
And they assumed, just like they assumed after they invaded, just like America. That, you know how the white man came over here and assumed America.
Yeah.
You know, same thing. You know, they've been doing this same thing all throughout history, and somehow they have came up with this league, you know, this league. Some call it Illuminati, some call it the elite, some call it the Nazis, some call it the Ashkenazi, right?
Mhm.
Some call it Montgomeryans, you know, from
Satanists.
Gomer, the people from the mountains of Gomer. There's a secret society that's built right in there, and I'm wondering about this Paul because there's new information that's coming up out of the woodworks that the books of Acts and a lot of Paul's writings not even historically accurate or even real.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ed. Go ahead. I don't mean to take over
You're,
your show.
no,
Go
you're
ahead,
right
bro.
about
Your
that.
fault.
You're right about that. I mean, no, that just helped bring the info out. All right. Let me see if we go back. A region that had been made a part of Roman province of Syria. By the time of Paul's adulthood, two of the main cities of Syria, Damascus um, and Antioch, played a prominent part in his life and letters. Although the exact date of his birth is unknown, but that's another thing they do. They give you a birth date, but then they say they don't even know the birth date. See, that's another thing you got to watch with these people. He was active as a missionary in the 40s and 50s of first century CE. From this, it might be inferred that he was born about the same time as Jesus, or a little later. He was converted to faith in Jesus Christ about 33 CE, and he died probably in Rome 62-64 CE. All right. Books
Now
in the new.
you
Uh huh.
mentioned Paul didn't even have a birthday, right?
Yeah.
They got approximately when he was born and where, but they don't know what day that this man was born, and that should be questioned.
Yeah, then they try to say he was born around Jesus time. You see how they try to put that in there because they took the data away
Yeah,
so they can just say whatever. Basically, that's how I looked at it.
yeah, stuff like that. You really need to question that.
Yeah,
You need to question that. You know, because I don't know whether your research have taken you this far, but you're going to get to a point to where you find out about this man named Marcion, the ship owner. Are you familiar with him?
nah,
That really Paul writings was just loose writings in a huge realm of Christianity. Like my writings is loose writings in a huge realm of the Black Israelite movement, right?
hmm
And that it's this racist, anti-Jew, Jew hater by the name of Marcion, the ship owner, that's responsible for the Apostle Paul's writings. But I'll probably, if we got time, I'll probably pull up something at the end of your presentation on that. Go ahead, man.
okay, yeah, that's good because I want to know about that too. Books in the New Testament written by Paul. Of the 27 books in the New Testament, 13 are attributed to Paul, and approximately half of another Acts of the Apostles deals with Paul's life and works. Thus, about half of the New Testament stems from Paul and the people whom he influenced. Only 7 of 13 letters, however, can be accepted as being entirely authentic, dedicated by Paul himself. His letters are written in Koine or in common Greek rather than in the elegant literary Greek of his wealthy contemporary, the Jewish philosopher Philo Judaeus and Alexandra.
Now you remember Philo? We talked about Philo yesterday. Remember
Yeah,
when I was comparing the young uh the young Aaron, his scholarship of Greek to that of Philo. Remember?
yeah.
Okay.
All right, Paul and the Phariseeism. Until about the midpoint of his life, Paul was a member of the Pharisees, a religious party that emerged during the later Second Temple period. What little is known about Paul and the Pharisees reflect the character of the uh, Pharisaic movement. Pharisees believe in life after death, which one of Paul's deepest convictions. They accepted non-biblical traditions as being about as important as written Bible. Paul refers to his expertise in traditions.
And that explains why Paul believed in the spirit,
Mhm.
in the resurrection, and the spook. That explains why Paul believed that some light knocked him off a horse and he believed that he saw Jesus.
Okay, so that's what the Pharisees is. So Pharisees is what is they are like Israelites who just they go outside of the scriptures. Is basically what they're saying. They accept non-biblical things too.
Yes, because see, it's non-biblical because when you start talking like that, you dealing in necromancy now.
Um,
You got this dead Jesus. Everybody, according to the text, saw this man hung, died, ascend up to heaven. Everything typical of what y'all say happened to dead people,
yeah,
right? And the Bible tells you you're not supposed to be talking to the dead, praying to the dead, having seances, conjuring up the dead. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah,
for anybody to be talking to a Jesus coming back to them, or a Moses, or a Elijah, or any of that, that's necromancy, man. Now, if you're talking to a reincarnation of these individuals, now you're dealing with another spiritual issue. But we're talking about necromancy, conjuring up, talking to, and just interacting with the dead. That's
yeah.
that's a violation of Hebrew law.
Okay.
So you can see how Paul's Pharisee ideas, you know, was adding heathen and pagan and strange ideologies to the Israelite movement. And this helped form Christianity as well as Islam. A Pharisee movement formed Islam as well.
Oh, okay. So Pharisees. So it was basically the Pharisees against what the Sadducees.
What was that question?
So it was basically because I heard people say Sadducees too, right? So what was the difference between them two?
Well, the Sadducees were Levitical priests,
Oh,
right?
okay.
And when you look at the origin of Sadducees, had always been around as long as the Levitical priests been around, right?
Oh,
Sadducees is the sons of Zodok,
okay.
right? The Benzodaki, the sons of Sojak, right? And if you listen to the word Zodok, right? Zodak, or Zodaki, Hazodaki, right? Zodaki is Sadducee is a Latinization of the word Zodaki. Zodok is the son of Eleazar, right?
Yeah,
Which is the son of Aaron, right?
yeah,
Which is the line of the Levitical priest. So it got to be understood that the Sadducees were Levitical priests, right? And it was Levitical priests like Judah Maccabees who is largely responsible for the creation of the Pharisee party. Because when he went all throughout Africa and certain parts of the Middle East and, the area of Israel and that area, uh, he went and the areas that he was conquering, right? He forced those people into Judaism, even if they were not even Israelites, right? And being that he forced so many people into Judaism, they wasn't subordinate to the Levitical priests. They created the rabbi to undermine the Levitical priests because the Pharisees mostly were a bunch of half breeds and converts.
Okay. All right. So let me get to Paul beliefs. Paul believed that Jewish converts to the new movement were not sufficiently observant of the Jewish law. The Jewish converts mingled too freely with Gentiles, non-Jewish converts, thus associating themselves with idolatrous practices, or that the notion of a crucified Messiah was objectionable. The young Paul certainly would have rejected the view that Jesus had been raised after his death, not because he doubted resurrection as such, but because he would not have believed that God chose to favor Jesus by raising him before the time of the judgment of the world. Now, and now what he's saying about this is what I've been arguing about when they're saying that he's supposed to be the Messiah. He's supposed to die for your sins. He's supposed to be the resurrected, chosen Savior. But then at the same time, he's supposed to be here as the judgment coming down to save the people. So it's like, how is he saving two, three times? Like, what is he doing? So he's saying that what Paul is saying, this is contradicting
Well, that
this
reminds me of
resurrection
a
is
song.
contradicting the judgment day.
That reminds me of a crazy song that I once heard by a group called Commission. Fred Hammond, he was in this group before he went solo. And it was a song to talk about, please don't crucify my Lord again. It's like every time that you sin, you crucify Jesus.
Yeah,
Well, goddamn, that means he'd have been crucified 20 trillion times, man.
yeah. And then you say he resurrected, but then he's supposed to come and then come and save you in a judgment time. So what Paul is saying that is contradicting. And I don't believe that he would bring somebody to be resurrected and die for your sins to save you when he's supposed to come in the judgment time.
But do you
So
see that big reach there? That's a
yeah,
big reach.
yeah,
You know, that's a big reach. And it's far from the original uh Hebrew concept of salvation and sacrifice and all of that. The Pharisee party, I didn't know exactly where Paul fit in. And I should have guessed that he was a Pharisee, right?
yeah.
Because the Pharisee is who gave birth to the spooky dude.
Okay.
And this is why when I beat up Aaron, I call it, that Christian, that Greek, that this and that. But really, that stuff started with the Pharisees. And it started in the Greek age because that's when the Pharisee party began. It's a product of Grecian domination and Grecian warmongering with us. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead. I'm
Yeah.
fixing to. I want you to take full control for about a good 20, 30 minutes, man. I'm fixing
All
to
right.
make a run, and I'm finna turn the show completely over to you, E.
Okay.
Take it away.
All right. Now, how did Paul become a Roman? We learn from Acts that Paul was a citizen of Rome and Tarsus. In Acts 16:37-38, upon being released from prison, Paul says, referring to both himself and Silas, they beat us publicly without a trial, even though we are Roman citizens, and threw us into prison. Here we also learn that the magistrates were horrified at having beaten Roman citizens. In Acts 22:25, Paul asks a centurion if it is permissible to flog a Roman citizen who hasn't been found guilty, speaking again of himself, unlike many of us in modern times who have a citizenship linked to our country. Roman citizenship was not automatic. It was not something you possessed simply because you lived within the Roman Empire. Instead, Paul received citizenship only because he was born into a family that had Roman citizenship. And his family received it because they lived in the province Sicilia. Okay. So he's saying that he's not found guilty, but he has citizenship, meaning he is not a non-citizen, meaning he is not something like a servant or a slave to where they can just do as they please because he has citizenship just like you would have here. Okay, just like if they took you, like when I became a felon, I lost all my citizenship to where there's certain things I couldn't do, like far as buy a gun, get an apartment complex, work at certain jobs, you know what I'm saying, stuff like that. All right, Paul education. We read Paul's letters in Greek language, and from this we know Paul was well educated. He could think, write. Um, we read Paul's letters in the Greek language, and from this we know Paul, well educated, he could think, write, and articulate himself in current Greek. This has led many scholars to conclude that Paul's education happened in Tarsus. Did you see the you see the message from Tashaka Yasha? Claims that Paul made Christianity and it wasn't the same as Jesus' teachings. Um, did Paul create Christianity? One of the favorite arguments of critics has been to claim that Saul of Tarsus, who became Apostle Paul and not Jesus, was actually the founder of Christianity. Paul, it is alleged, changed the teachings of Jesus and became the inventor of Christianity as we know it now. As we know it. This belief has been held by many throughout the history of the church. So you see what this is saying? Because I tell people how would Jesus be able to be the really the head of the Christianity when he didn't write none of these books? The people who write these books and control you with these books, and the person who created the book is the founder of it. The only way Jesus would be able to be a founder if he wrote the books himself and spread them around. But once somebody else writes something, they can make their own what agenda. They can make their own theories on stuff, and they can make their own agenda to control people. So therefore, that person that created it has more power than the person he even talking about. Paul Christianity was different. The proof that Paul contradicted what Jesus taught can be found in the comparison between his writings and the four Gospels. Indeed, it is contended that Paul's teaching were not the same as Jesus. If one compares what the two of them taught, it is agreed that there is no way to recounsel the differences. Each of them taught a different Christianity. The Christianity we have today is that of Paul, not of Jesus of Nazareth. So again, y'all go see why they saying this. Y'all go see why they saying that this is not the same teaching of Jesus, because he's basically hijacked everything by saying a mythological thing of saying that he seen Jesus. Jesus gave him the word to speak this. So this is not him being physically with Jesus. This is not him being a disciple. This is not him Jesus he's sitting in the class of Jesus teaching them. This is him hijacking and creating his own thing called Christianity. Okay. All right, let's go. Jesus chose Paul and appeared to him. This is what Paul is trying to claim. This is why Paul hijacked it. This is why people start listening to Paul and believe what Paul said in his books. Okay, the 13 books out of 27 now. 13 out of 27, and most of the books that he created, most people read. More than the other 20, more than the other, 14 books, all right? For the three separate accounts of Paul's conversation as recorded in the book of Acts, we find that Jesus himself chose Saul of Tarsus to be his special messenger. For example, we read the following in Acts 9. And this is why I don't agree with Christianity. This is why I don't agree with Paul. This is why I don't agree with Jesus, because they're talking about like he is God sending a message to another person, like the Most High did. Okay. This is straight blasphemy, and this is not right, and this is deceiving. Okay, Saul kept threatening to murder the Lord's disciples. Now Saul is Peter. I mean, it's Paul. So remember that. Saul kept threatening to murder the Lord's disciples. He went to the chief priest and asked him to write letters of authorization to the synagogue leaders in the city of Damascus. Saul wanted to arrest any man or woman who followed the way of Christ and imprison them in Jerusalem. As Saul was coming near the city of Damascus, a light from heaven suddenly flashed around him. He fell to the ground and heard a voice say to him, Saul, Saul, why are you prosecuting me? Saul asked, Who are you, sir? The person replied, I'm Jesus, the one you're prosecuting. Get up, go into the city, and you'll be told what you should do. Meanwhile, the man traveling with him were speechless. They heard the voice but didn't see anything. Saul was helped up to the ground. When he opened his eyes, he was blind. So his companions led him into Damascus. For 3 days he couldn't see and didn't eat or drink. Okay, now check this out. If I'm a person that didn't like a certain group and they rebelling, and I'm trying to get rid of them. What if I can't beat them? What is the first thing you do? You join them. You join them. You hijack it. They murdered the disciples. Well, most of them. We know they murdered John. Okay, so they got rid of these people, and then they created another person, just like they did in the Black Power movement. They killed the real black leaders that were trying to free. And what they do, and what did Hoover say? Hoover said, "I would create the next Messiah. We're going to create the next Messiah. It would never be another black Messiah unless we create them." Okay, so that's what they do, and they've been doing it. And this ain't nothing new. Okay, how Paul said Jesus gave him the word. Not only did Jesus specifically choose Paul to be his messenger to the world, the message of Paul was personally taught by Jesus. Okay, Paul wrote the churches of Galatia and following explanation about the origin of his teachings. I want you to know, brothers and sisters, that the good news I have spread is not a human message. I didn't receive it from any person. I was taught it. But Jesus Christ revealed it to me. You heard about the way I once lived when followed the Jewish religion. You heard how I violently prosecuted God's church and tried to destroy it. You also heard how I was far ahead of other Jews in my age group in the falling of the Jewish religion. I had become the fanatical for the traditions of my ancestors. But God, who appointed me before I was born, and who called me by my kinness, was pleased to show me His Son. He did this so that I would tell people who are not Jewish that His Son is the good news when this happens. So again, you will see that that from my understanding and me seeing that He created this agenda to get people to follow Him by saying that Jesus gave Him His through the Spirit, and no human gave it to Him. So therefore, you can't prove it. Therefore, He can't prove it. Therefore, there's no evidence. It's all for believing Him or not. Okay, and what He did is by Him being somebody. If I'm somebody that's doing this and trying to kill you, and then I turn around and say, "Hey, brother, I'm not trying to kill you no more," it kind of makes it seem like, "Oh, this is something divine," but it's just a trickery. Okay. The death of Paul. One of the stories, Paul's account bears a strong resemblance of the story of Eutychus in Acts 20. A servant, perhaps cupbearer of the Nero, fell asleep in the window listening to Paul and fell asleep to his death and fell to his death. After he was raised from the dead by Paul, the resurrected servant upset Nero by acknowledging Jesus as the eternal king, leading Nero to discover that many others among his own bodyguard were Christians. As with Peter, details changed in the later retelling. Paul is sometimes guilty of converting Nero's mistress or concubine in a certain version of the tale, and having converted almost the entire palace and others. Nero had Christians arrested and Paul beheaded. Interestingly, a post-mortem visit from Paul convinced Nero to release the other Christians. And did y'all hear this? This is straight mythology. This is straight them making versions of stories based off myth, not real. Okay, they're saying Paul. They saying people was resurrected. They saying Paul's talking to people in the spirit. They saying all this crazy stuff. And this is the thing that I'm telling people about. That the New Testament is really, really, really based off a lot of Greek mythology, Roman mythology, Norse mythology, of other mythologies before it. Okay, Paul beheaded. Paul was executed in Rome in about 67 AD, according to the ancient sources such as Clement, Dionysius, Eusebius, and Tertullian. Paul was executed by beheading, a death befitting a Roman citizen. Ancient records suggest that Nero knew Paul personally, so it's likely that he had Paul beheaded through. Beheaded through. Okay. So this is one of the versions where they saying that Paul was beheaded by Nero because he was converting a lot of his people. He was converting a lot of his close people. He's converting even his concubines. Okay, but I'm saying that he was gaining power in a system that didn't want him to gain this power. He was gaining power by being deceitful to a people who was growing. And when these people grew, he became a threat to the system that he was under and worked for. Okay, so they had to kill him because by him creating and being the founder of this Christianity, he became a strong person amongst the people because these people were rebellious, rebellious amongst the system. Why Paul died, however, the greatest event of the surrounding the emperor, and this is the main reason why they did it. This is the reason why they made this crusade killing. However, the greatest event that surrounded the emperor was the Great Fire of Rome. This event was also part of the execution of Paul the Apostle. History tells us that Emperor Nero started the Great Fire in the city of Rome. It began on July the 19th, 64 AD, which spread for 6 days, reignited and burned for 3 further days. This event made Emperor Nero bypass the Senate and rebuild Rome to his liking. He took advantage of the disaster for two things: build his luxurious agriculture and prosecute Christians. So did this sound like that they did it? Or did this sound like this was an inside job for a person to gain power and was given a reason why he can execute certain people? You see what I'm saying? This is what we call today. They'll try to say, oh, this is conspiracy. Okay. Is there a proof of Paul's death? There is no proof of what happened to Apostles Paul's body after his death. Yet, based on Albert Barnes' writing, two possible scenarios happened. First, Lucina and noble woman buried his body on her land beside the Ostian Road. Second, his body was taken to the catacombs below the city along with Apostle Peter's body. Okay.
All
So,
right.
yeah.
I'm loving that.
You seen Tashaka message?
No, what do you say?
He said, okay, I got the link. Shalom, shalom, grace and peace be unto the most high blessed, polite cop in the out. So you might
Okay.
want to, yeah.
So I just call him, have him come on in.
Okay.
We'll just deal with that from there. If he come in, we'll change the title. If not, then we'll go from there.
All right.
Oh, all right. Go ahead. Finish up.
All right. Wait, I ain't got number like 3, 4 more slides anyway. So all right, so this right here, this is what I'm doing. I'm
No,
doing
I
the
don't mean finish up like that. I mean like just go ahead and do your thing.
no, no, yeah, yeah. I'm just saying, I got about 3, 4 more slides anyway on this, but I'll just go break this down while you doing that. Um, I this one I was showing the comparisons of what I say Greek mythology and other mythologies and Christian mythology, and where I believe myself from my research where he got where they got a lot of this stuff from. All right, Greek mythology, Christian mythology, they know one is myth, but think the other is real. Zeus has God created Hercules by impregnating a woman, making Hercules half man and half God. God in the New Testament has God impregnated human woman, making Jesus half God, half man. And this is when I say when we're talking about mythology, because if you go to all these ancient mythology, a lot of them, even when you go to Egypt, they have what a mythical mother, a mythical mother, father that created something. They have and they have like a baby god. Okay, when you go to other mythologies, they have basically just God being just a man, and then this man has sex with human beings, and these people have babies, and they have half humans, half babies. Now, if you in a nation where something is an uprising and it's against what your culture is, it's against what your teaching is, all right, and you have to stop it, but it's growing like a fire. What you do is you join it, and then you twist it around and to where it benefits from your reign, right? So what I'm saying is they killed the apostles. I mean, the disciples. Okay, they took these books, they took these writings or letters, whatever you want to call them. They put these things together to fit the agenda. They put paganism in it. They put their type of mythology in it. Okay, and they mixed it all up to benefit their reign. So now you can have the pagans and you can have the Christians under one, which you see what I'm saying, which they control. That's how they understood that, and they start learning that a thing called religion controls the people. And if you notice after that, that's when a lot of the controlling happened when people start going to different countries, invaded. And what's the first thing they started doing? They make you convert. They make you convert to Islam. They make you convert to Christianity. They make you convert to Catholicism. They make you convert to anything else that was under their culture of their nation. Because once you put them under there, it's hard to get it. It's hard to deculturalize yourself or de nationalize yourself from the nation that you was under. Like if you leave America, we leave America right now. If we're not already under, I'm gonna say like something like Islam, Israel that already has a type of culture. Like that's why certain people can go to the moon or what, and they still live. They Americanized themselves as much as they could because they was always here under another, following another culture, even though they still had to follow certain laws. But if regular people who not really a Christian or Muslim or something like that, they leave and go somewhere else, they wouldn't really be able to Americanize themselves. They're still going to eat certain foods. We're gonna want to play some games. We're gonna have some. We're gonna want our cell phone. We're gonna it's a certain thing we're gonna have. We're gonna go. The man gonna want woman. Woman gonna want man. It's gonna be certain things that's gonna happen. Okay, drugs, all this stuff will still follow us. All right. Greek mythology and Christian mythology, hell and the underworld, Hades and the devil, Hades god and the dead, Hades god of the dead and underworld, the devil god, hell, underworld. Punish the devil, punish the evil dead, their god. Both are myths, but one is taught as a real being. Now, this is what I mean when I say this. If you understand what we said, what hell was a place of West Jerusalem, Jahana Tupel, where they sacrificed the children to Malak, okay? And it was called the Lake of Fire. It was a real place on earth that did not, that basically, through Christianity, later on started making it literal and created it as hell. But if you read in the Bible, even the Bible itself talks about hell sometimes as a place called Hades. We understand what is Hades. Hades is a Greek mythology. of which we would call hell, right? So these things are based off the same stuff. They had a god of Hades, they got a god of hell. These places where people get punished. One place I think is more like where other gods go. If I ain't mistaken, like Olympia or stuff like that. But um, they both is like the underworld. In the Old Testament, a lot of them start believing in stuff like shit where you just go to a place where it's just dark. Then later on, it started becoming where it's a place that everybody meets there at. Then it goes somewhere else. Then it became um, it's a place that you go either for punishment or you place you go into a higher form. Okay, and I'm talking about this hell and heaven. I'm not saying it's not nothing after this. I'm just saying the purpose, the image of how they created hell and heaven is not the truth. Okay, so when you see these two beings, understand that they are basically the same. They just they under mythology. Mythology can have different people, have different names, but they're still under the same thing. Okay, that's what I'm trying to tell people. Like I said, death before. Death in Greek, you have the Tyrannosaurus, right? He's the god of death, but then you have the Grim Reaper. But then in the Bible, you have the pale horse. All of these are mythical characters based off the same entity. I mean, based off the same thing, which is death. Okay, this is something that I'm put with the Egypt and the eye. I'm just showing the verse, and I'm gonna show where how I say it is similar. All right, light and dark eye symbolism put in the Bible by Greek mythology, copied from Greek mythology. I mean, Kemet mythology. Okay, Egypt mythology or Tamari, whatever which one you wanna play, you wanna go. All right, Matthew 6:22 to 23. The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. But if thy eye be evil, thy whole body shall be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in thee be darkness, how great is that darkness? Eyes were in the most important origin in Egypt thought, as they allow perception of the real world. Their importance have been immortalized in the myth of the Eye of Horus that explains the role of either eye. One represents the moonlight, which disperses the darkness of the light of the night, and the other represents the sunshine, which creates life, and both could also represent the power of human intellect. So a lot of this stuff is always been ancient stuff that's just passed down. It just they change. They change by culture. They change by different way of teaching. But the same way they talk about the light and how you could determine the inside the light of the body, the Egyptians believed that too. You know what I'm saying? They just use it in a different way, a different form. All right, Christian worship the sun, and this is why I say, my last one. I got one more. All right, Christian worship the sun, and this is why I tell people that I agree that Jesus, the mythical parts and the story that was based off of sun worship that was put over top of Jesus. If people saying he believe if he exists in that, that's my point. My point is to show that the mythical part is based off the sun. Maybe they took a man, or maybe they created their own man, because that's what mythology does. They take something, they create a human, or they create a god-like being from it. They create a story behind it. Okay, it's no different. But this is why I say sun god, Jesus, Sunday. What is Sunday? Sunday means the day of the sun. Okay, Easter is literally called Sunday Resurrection. It's not called Jesus Resurrection. It's called Sunday Resurrection. What does Sunday Resurrection mean when you break it down? The day of the sun resurrection. Okay, the day of the sun resurrection. I'm gonna say it again. Sun God Jesus worship on Sunday, the day of the sun. Easter, Sunday resurrection. The Son of God worship on Sunday, December the 25th. What is December the 25th called? The worship of the unconquered sun. Okay, so a person can't really see this. I can't really help, but this is what makes me understand that they have put some type of worship, sun worship in this. Okay, All right, now this is me talking about the Last Supper. All right, some people will go to the zodiac, say the 12 zodiac signs and the sun, right? This is something else I just seen from it. Number 13 could be the unlucky number. I mean, could the unlucky number 13 and Jesus' Last Supper origin be from the Norse mythology of the 13 gods' Last Supper, as stated above? The fear of the number 13 is deeply rooted in human due to um, traditions as well as its biblical association. Judas, who betrayed Jesus ultimately and led his subsequent death, was believed to have been the 13th apostle. Norse myth 13 gods, the unlucky nature of the number 13 originated with a Norse myth about 12 gods having a dinner party in Valhalla. The trickster god Loki, who was not invited, arrived as the 13th guest and arranged for Hor to shoot Balder with a mistletoe tipped arrow. Okay. You see that this is about the last supper of the gods at the battle. This is about the last supper. And I'm pretty sure each of these gods is based off of something like the planet, Venus, something, Jupiter. I guarantee these guys are based off of something. Just like up top when we say the disciples is based off what the zodiacs. Jesus is the sun, and then you have the 12 zodiacs. Okay, you have this guy, and you have the 12 other gods. But I'm pretty sure one of them is representation of a sun or some planets. These people have representation of this. Okay, and that's why I use the number 13, not 12, but 13, because you have 12 disciples, then you have one more person, which will equal the 13th number, and that's why I used that. Okay, and that was it with this part of the presentation. You there, Yasha?
Yeah, Tashaka
Can you
just
talk to him?
called me.
All
Yeah,
right, yeah.
Tashaka just
We can
called
end
me.
it now because I just finished.
Yeah, he said he was trying to come in. I'm calling him now. I don't know what the hard, why it's so hard to get through to him.
Yeah,
I mean, why it's so hard to just answer the phone,
yeah,
or just push the button to the link.
yeah. He
It's
said he had the link, so
yeah.
yeah, he said what? He said be up to he said polite couple. Oh no, he didn't say nothing about a link. I thought he did.
Yeah, I seen something about a link in there. What it say?
I thought I seen. Oh no, he said okay, I got the link. He did say yeah.
Yeah. So,
Um, show me what you were talking about with the guy that you were talking about.
you talk about Marcian. Let me look this guy
Yeah.
up. Yeah, Marcian, the ship owner. I'm gonna back on out of that. What we got going on here? You back on out of that. Back out of that. Okay, go
Yeah, I can
there.
stop my screen. The people that was watching, like and subscribe. You know, we're talking about Paul Deceiver, and now we're gonna be talking about what you said his name is?
Marcian.
Marcinian. Okay,
Yeah.
I know a lot of people ain't never heard about this because I ain't really heard about him. Because really, I fell off from the New Testament. I really ain't been in it for a long time, so this is newer stuff that I'm finding out about this. But if y'all missed this, go back and watch on the part of Paul Deceiver how he is really the founder of Christianity. Like when anything gonna say founder, he's the face of it. Even more, like y'all said, even more than Jesus himself.
Yeah. Can you see that?
Yeah, it's popping up now.
We're talking about Marcianism, right?
Yeah.
Can you read what it says there? It says Marcian was reportedly a wealthy ship owner, the son of a bishop of Sinope of Pontus, Asia Minor. He arrived in Rome around 140 CE. soon after the Bar Kokhba revolt. That's important. The organization continued in the East for centuries, particularly outside the Byzantine Empire, in areas which later would be dominated by Manichaeism. I'm just going to read a little bit about Marcion, right?
Okay.
Just a little bit. Marcionism was an early Christian dualistic belief that originated with the teachings of Marcion of Sinope in Rome around the year 144. Marcion was an early Christian theologian, evangelist, and an important figure in early Christianity. He was the son of the bishop of Sinope in Pontus. About the middle of the second century, he traveled to Rome, where he joined the Syrian Gnostic Credo. Marcion preached that the benevolent God of the gospel, who sent Jesus Christ into the world as the Savior, was the true supreme being, different and opposite of the malevolent demiurge or creator God identified with the Hebrew God of the Old Testament. Now, you see, when you get this ideology, like say how Garfield Reed he's portraying. Garfield Reed is a modern day like Marcion, right? A Marcionian under the teachings of Marcion. You know, guys who follow Jesus but hate the God of Israel, right?
Oh yeah,
You'll
that's my
see that.
new word for them now.
Yeah, you know you hate you believe in Jesus, but you hate the God of Israel. You know, you wonder how can that happen when Jesus supposed to have been one with the God of Israel, right? Meaning that you really hate Jesus and God, but how y'all do that is called Marcionism. Okay, he considered himself a follower of Paul the Apostle, whom he believed to have been the only true apostle of Jesus Christ. The Marcion's canon, probably the first Christian canon ever compiled. Marcion's canon probably was the first Christian canon ever compiled, consisted of 11 books, a gospel, which was a shorter version of the Gospel of Luke, and 10 Pauline epistles. Marcion's canon rejected the entire Old Testament, along with all other epistles and gospels of what would become the 27 books New Testament canon, which during his life had yet to be compiled. Now, Marcion, you got to understand that Marcion's writings consisted of a small fragment of the book of Luke and like 11 epistles of Paul. Meaning that Marcion's writings was compiled before the entire New Testament was ever even compiled. Is you seeing that?
Yeah, I see it.
So what I was trying to tell y'all earlier, Marcion is responsible for bringing a racist, a guy who hated the God of Israel, right? He is the first person ever responsible with the compilation the compiling. You see that? Did you see that?
Yeah.
Of Paul's writings, because his Bible consisted of all of Paul's writings, a little bit of the book of Luke, and that was it. And he had Paul's writings before they was ever even accepted into the canon at the Conference of Hippo. A lot of people think that the Conference of Nicaea is where the Gospels was compiled. Now, I remind you about that this guy Marcion came upon the scene around the time of the Bar Kokhba revolt. I talk a lot about the Bar Kokhba revolts because I talk about these were revolts that took place in Africa. Jewish revolts that took place not in Israel, but on the continent of Africa, in Carthage, right there where the Bible was first compiled, at the Conference of Hippo, not at the Conference of Nicaea, people in Rome. Yes, your New Testament was compiled. I'm trying to get y'all to see this this racial fight between whites and black going back over 2,000 years ago, and how white supremacy entered into your Bible by the way of Marcion. Do you remember, as we were talking earlier, you were talking about how this Apostle Paul was born in Anatolia, in the land of the Gutians,
Yeah.
the white Turks, the people who became the Turks, the people who became the Anglo-Saxons and the Jutes and the Burgundians and the Vulgars and the Vandals. Think of that. Vulgar, Vandal. Man, these are some names of some tribes, ain't it? These were the people in which Marcion emerged. I am trying to get y'all to see how white supremacy entered into your New Testament Bible. It entered by the way of this man by the name of Marcion. I tell y'all that at the Council of Nicaea, it was a man there by the name of St. Nicholas of Anatolia. Even Santa Claus was at the Conference of Nicaea, y'all. He was a black Turk. So you had black Turks and white Turks, people from Turkey, Anatolia. Marcion was a part of that white group that hated those black Jews. And Marcion was probably the most instrumental man in the history of the world of adding the Apostle Paul's writings to the Hebrew canon. And it was Marcion, by way of Paul's writings, that really was the creator of Christianity. By way of Paul. You see, Paul's instrumental in that. Where was we at here? So let's say, let's go back here. Let's say, Marcion preached the benevolent God of the gospel who sent Jesus Christ into the world. We went through that. We went through that. He considered himself a follower of Apostle Paul, whom believed to have been the only true apostle of Jesus Christ. Marcion's canon, possibly the first Christian canon ever compiled, consisted of 11 books, a gospel, which was shorter than the version of the Gospel of Luke, and 10 Pauline letters. Marcion's canon rejected the entire Old Testament along with the entire epistles of the gospel of what would become the 27 book New Testament canon, which during his life had yet to be compiled. That's all what I was just telling y'all about, basically. Pauline epistles enjoyed a prominent position in the Marcionite canon, since Paul was considered by Marcion to be Christ's only true apostle. You see how how this how this is weaved itself into the fabric of Christianity, Eric.
Yeah.
Marcion was denounced by his opponent as a heresy and written against by the early Christian fathers, notably by Tertullian. Tertullian didn't like him because Tertullian and Augustine were black men. Quite naturally, they wouldn't like him, right?
Yeah.
In his five-book Treatise, the Adversus Marcianum, meaning against Marcion, in about 208 CE. Marcion's writings are lost, though they were widely read and numerous manuscripts must have existed. Even so, many scholars claim it is possible to reconstruct and deduce a large part of ancient Marcionism through what later critics, especially Tertullian, said concerning Marcion. Have y'all had enough? Of y'all want a little bit more about this guy, Marcion?
I'm trying to. You just go. I'm trying to get. I'm trying to get True on here. He said he's gonna like come in.
Let me know if he's in the back because while I'm over here reading, I can't see him. So, according to Tertullian and other writers of early proto-Orthodox Christianity, right, the movement known as Marcionism began with the teachings and excommunication of Marcion around 144. So, this man movement excommunicated him out his own damn movement.
Yeah.
Marcion was reportedly a wealthy ship owner, the son of a bishop of Sinope of Pontus, Asia Minor. He arrived in Rome around 140, soon
Hey,
after the
the link you had disappeared. I don't know what happened.
The link I had,
Yeah.
we just put it back up there.
Yeah. I told him it was in the link in this because he wanted the link, but I ain't. I don't know how to send the link.
I'll just send it to him.
Uh,
I'll send it straight to Tim. So y'all see, while I'm sending this to Tim, can y'all see the history and how Marcion influenced Christianity? How Marcion influenced the New Testament.
yeah.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
What I'm trying to get you to understand that Paul's writings, although they are his writings, they would not have even made it into the world if it wasn't for Marcion. Tell him I sent him the link.
Uh,
It's about to go down now when he come on here because the momentum is going to change.
he sent you the link. He sent you the link. What you call that? If you want, if you want here.
Yeah, so Tashaka, we trying to get Tashaka on here because Tashaka say he got some information, right, about Polite taking a solid straight eight. That's Tashaka. You know, I didn't want to spill the beans, but we trying to get him on here so he can relay this information. I told people that Polite was gonna get about a 10 piece, a 10 to 15. If the judges don't like him, they're gonna give him a 20. I say they're gonna give him a 10 to 15. A eight, that's probably that sound about right. That sound about believable. For the because he had over 100 years in charges, and a plea would just knock him down to a straight eight. You know, I sent you guys the link to Shaka and Tim.
Let me see what somebody just messed with my.
He say send the link again, so I'll send the link again, Tim. I just sent it. You should have it right now. I'm gonna call him, see what's happening. Yeah. What you say about this Christianity and Paul, Eric?
Um, yeah, I just said that what happened is I believe that from me reading it that these people were rebellion. They was running like wildfire, and he went actually one of them dead. So what happened is instead of like the old saying, "Go if you can't beat them, you join them." So he made up a big story to say that, "Hey, Jesus told me this, and I'm the speaker for Jesus now."
Yeah,
And
I got
people,
Tim. I got Tim on the other line, and he's saying the link ain't showing up on YouTube.
yeah, I told you you won't know YouTube.
It,
That's why I told you to just send it to me.
I just sent it on YouTube, right? I sent it, but I sent it to your Facebook. You can't go on Facebook.
Oh, yeah, you got it.
It's on your messenger.
You sent it on my cam two or the regular one. Oh, I think I got it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm coming on right now.
All right.
Yeah, and I'm saying that when he told the people that story, they believed it, right? Because like I said, they believe in this stuff. So they tricked him into following him. And what happened is he was gaining so much power that the people he was working for got scared, and which is Nero. And Nero cocked up a plan and burnt some shit down and blamed it on them. So therefore, he can create a better. He rebuilt his own empire and he killed the Christians with Paul because Paul was becoming too powerful. It's almost like God did Sammy the Bull. Sammy the Bull was his hitman. Sammy the Bull was killing people, but the general who always in the field always have more respect than the king. The general always have more respect than the president, and they know that. And what happened is Sammy the Bull got so powerful, he started buying businesses. John Gotti got scared. Well, I think he was scared but paranoid, and saying that Sammy the Bull was trying to take over his power. So he ended up plotting to get Sammy the Bull killed, and that's why Sammy the Bull told on him. And this always and with that, what are they? They are the same people. They're Romans.
Yeah.
They're Italian. So it was the same. This is how they think. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
and you have to, and see that's why the I say that the New Testament, even though I'm not an Israelite, I still read it
Yeah,
because it is a historical document. Simply because this book has been around for thousands of years.
yeah,
If it did nothing else, it folded and molded the mentality of places like Rome, right? Italy, England, France. You know, Christianity is important to these Gutians, the
Right about that.
Kumari, the sons of Gomer, the Japhethites.
He's DOA.
It's important to them because you have to understand that before Christianity, these people were barbarians, man.
Yeah.
They couldn't read, they couldn't write. Even the most atheist, God hating white man today has to give his love and allegiance to Christianity
Mm-hmm.
because it was before he was able to make bombs, all type of recording equipment to record motherfuckers, technology, guns, drugs, all type of chemistry and technological advances. Advances. Before he did that, he before he had any of that, it was Christianity that gave him all of that. Because it was Christianity that taught him the elements of how to read, how to write. So there is good in that book, even in the New Testament. The Europeans and white people have demonstrated the good and the power in the book, whether it be the Europeans who accepted Christianity or whether it be the Europeans that accepted Judaism, right? DOA, you in the house, man. Announce yourself and let us know what's going on in your world, Doc.
You know me. Your way. Just
Speak
got
a little
off.
louder. We can't hear you.
Yeah, just got off of a fake, call it fake recap rematch bullshit on the Liars Den.
What happened to King Joel?
Yeah, they, but I double streamed it in the show that I was at the backstage, so it don't matter. The niggas is
Yeah.
all liars on their whole damn shit.
I
Call
told you
me,
what they was gonna do. So,
They kicked you off.
yeah, put me in the backstage.
Didn't I did
I
what did I
told you
tell
Kareem was gonna do that.
what did I tell you they was gonna do? I told you they was gonna mute you. I told you they was gonna talk over you. I told you it was gonna be a whole gang of them ganging you, and I told you they was gonna put your ass in the back. Did all of that happen, or just one of those happen?
All of it happened. You was dead on the money. Dead on the
Yeah,
money.
yeah.
Brother,
We don't been dealing with these people, man.
do you know who I am? Dude, I am the guy who carried the Lions Den belt honorarily. I had to beat no one for that belt. You talking to the man, man.
Yeah.
I tell you how it goes down over there.
And when he left, I'm the one they tried to use while he was gone.
It don't
If
matter
you
no
could
more.
understand,
It don't
man,
matter no more to me. They trash anyway, and they ain't got no real balls. I went on their platform, so it don't matter. You know what I'm saying? I'm still DOA in the end, so it don't matter. And I didn't lose the debate. I beat
you
that
wouldn't
motherfucker.
believe you wouldn't believe that you lost that debate because of the hatred for Terry, though.
But
And
they,
then they want to cover it up like some bias shit.
yeah. Well, what they did, they took y'all honesty when y'all said what y'all said. They twisted it up and tried to make it appear, and they even
Like it
They
gave
was
hold
bad.
up. They
Yeah.
want to
yeah
put it
they
on
even
some
gave
fake
it
But I
bias
mean,
shit.
I got all the screenshots. So I'm about to go live in a minute. I'm about to show all the texts. I'm about to send
Hey, we
JJ a
live
mini.
right
You
now.
know.
We live right
Yeah,
now.
but then, but see, but this we already in the hour in, so people ain't gonna really see it. That's why I don't like doing, you know what I mean? Because people have to go down the hour to see this. If we go do this, we have to do another whole show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
What you
let's
gotta
go on and
do?
exit on out and let's go ahead and get it popping in right now.
Yep.
We can't.
Part two. All of y'all go ahead on and log in about 10 minutes. We about to throw a brand new link up and do a
Yes,
brand
I'm
new
about to I'm about to break it all the way down to it. I'm about to show JJ admitting to it. I'm about to put all that shit up. I'm about to talk about Takori, how they try to make me vote against vote against Ruben. Since they want to do all this, since they want
Whoa,
to,
whoa, 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 whoa! Yeah, bring it out. Bring it
yeah,
out.
Oh
because
yeah, we're gonna bring
I seen Takori on there. That trust me, I know what they were trying to say. I ain't
now
even had to listen to it.
I'm the man, right? So I'm gonna validate all that, right? And I'm gonna add some icings to that cake. And my icing got that sweet, sweet canna butter in it, boy. It's gonna do you nasty.
Yeah, yeah, they don't know what they fucking with, man.
Say it again.
They don't know what they doing, bro.
Let's get
I
it
got that icing, boy.
Let's get it popping. Get it popping.
Hey, let me get up out of here.
All
We
right,
out
hey,
here,
hey,
y'all. Hey, we love y'all.
make the title Lions Den Snakes and how they not telling the whole true story.
All right. Lions, deer, snakes, and how they not telling the whole true story. Y'all come back over there. We about to get it in, y'all. Love y'all. We out. Peace. Meet us over there.
All right.